Hey traders, in today's podcast, we're going to talk about changing your belief system. So having the ability to question things that you once learned and really go down the path of discovering if they are true or not true and ultimately making the decision on your own. Now, if you guys haven't had a chance to check it out already, make sure you check out the website, www.tier1trading.com. If you're interested in learning how to become a better trader, check out the site. We've got a whole bunch of stuff on there to help you along that journey. Looking left on the chart, how far in time should we ideally go looking for a level? But you want to have a recency bias. So your most recent levels of structure are always going to be your most important levels of structure. Outside levels of structure, perfect. Outside levels of structure are always going to be more important than inside levels of structure. What we want to avoid is we want to avoid a confirmation bias. So one of the biggest changes in my trading career was when I was taught this, and you believe everything you're taught at first, but I was taught that the more times a level of structure is hit, the more powerful it is. Where I had rules where it's like, how do you define a major level of structure? Well, a major level of structure is a level of structure that's hit 3 times, right? So here's the problem, right? I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to close my eyes once I get my tool up. I'm going to take my horizontal tool. I was about to say I'm going to close my eyes and you guys tell me when to stop, but if my eyes are closed, you can't actually tell me when to stop. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm just going to hover this thing around anywhere, and I'm going to click the button. The point is that we can scroll back, and eventually we will always find something at what we're looking for, right? I can scroll back all the way to, we're going to be below my line now, so not that far back. We can always scroll back in time and find a level of structure at whatever price point we're at. So the problem with that is that we create a confirmation bias, right? We have something that we want to do. We want this to be a relevant level of structure, and we're basically ignoring all the information that goes against our opinion, and we're only considering information that helps our opinion, right? It's very similar to, like, you ever been in an argument and you're arguing with someone and someone makes some really good points, but you just ignore it because they're not on your side? It's those type of deals where it's like, when you're in an argument, and matter of fact, this is exactly how social media is right now, right? You look at Facebook and like the algorithm for Facebook. The algorithm for Facebook and most social media platforms only show you what you need to see. So if you have like a specific political stance, right, and it knows that you have a specific political stance because it analyzes everything you look at on the internet and everything you read and how long you spend on blah, 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 right? Do you think Facebook is ever going to show you something that doesn't align with your thoughts? No, right? It's only going to show you stuff that you agree with. And that's one of the bigger problems, how we believe so much, the whole fake news thing is because we only believe what we are shown, but we're only shown half the story because that's how the algorithm works. So that's a confirmation bias just like this, right? This isn't a relevant level of structure at all, right? This is a random line in a random location. This is not a major level of structure. But if we have a rule that says, hey, I'm going to go back and once I find 3 other touches, then it becomes a major level of structure. And the question I would ask about that is this, right? 1, why is 3 the magical number? Can anyone tell me? Is there any reason that 3 should be the magical number? Why isn't it 2? Why isn't it 4? Why isn't it 5? Why is 3 the magical number? Secondly, does a level of structure that exists all the way back in, this is an hourly chart, so we're not going too far back, but a level of structure that exists 10 years ago, aside from it being a all-time high and all-time low, aside from a more recent level of structure also bouncing off of it, which if that were the case, the more recent level of structure we want to pay attention to, does the level of structure 10 years ago make any difference today if it hasn't been retested or respected since? Those are the questions we need to ask ourselves, right? So when it comes back to looking at structure, I'm not a believer in like, hey, it needs to hit 3 times, because you'll always find every single level of structure has been hit 3 times at some point on a price chart, right? Aside from like maybe an all-time high or low. So you'll always find that. So I'm a big believer in that you want to have a recency bias, right? We need to have a recency bias in trading. What is the most recent level of structure that has been tested, that has held? right? So that's when we want to look for our inside and our outside levels of structure. And if you go to a Q&A session we did, I don't know how far ago this was, scheduling successful trading journey, alternative targets and plans. Here we go. So Monday, August 22nd, 2022, inside versus outside structure. So make sure you give that one a watch as well. That's going to directly answer this question, obviously with a 49-minute dedicated program to that question. That's a good question. And again, a good example of you need to be open-minded. My mentor told me that rule. One of my mentors told me that rule. And I believed it simply because that was my mentor, and like whatever my mentor says is gold. But as you kind of leave the nest, right? As you become an adult and you go off to school and you're not living with your mom and your dad anymore, you start to kind of explore your own thoughts, right? Some are good, some are bad, but you start to form your own ideas instead of just what you've been ingrained with by, blah, blah, blah. And, we encourage that here, right? A lot of trading coaches and mentors out there will not encourage that. They'll say, you have to trade my way, you have to do it this way, or you're wrong. We're the exact opposite, right? Question everything. Jason Graceland says this all the time. Question everything. Question what you're doing, question what we're doing. That's the only way you're going to get information, right? Go on these researches and look at how we're teaching stuff and research other ways to do it and see if it makes sense. And maybe it does make sense. Maybe it doesn't make sense, right? If it does make sense, then you're like, hey, I believe in what these guys are teaching even more. If it doesn't make sense, well, now you found an alternative way to look at it, right? Either way, you're growing, right? There's no downside to it. Either way, you're growing. Either you confirm your answer and you have more confidence, or you get an alternative answer and you find a different path to explore, which should ultimately help you. It's a win-win situation. So always ask the question. Hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. As always, support the show by subscribing or following or whatever you have to do on whatever podcast app you're listening on. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And do me a favor, share this with a friend. So if you're on social media and you like an episode, give it a share. That way we can have more people tuning in. We can have more great questions, and we can put out more quality episodes of the Trading Coach Podcast.